Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming at you to review the movie by the name of Centigrade. A movie that came out last year in 2020, something that I kind of heard about on blue-ray.com or something like that, I would imagine, around the time it came out on Blu-ray. Now, basically, I live in Minnesota, if you guys didn't know, and generally, when winter rolls around, for whatever reason, I do have the kind of an interest in watching movies like this, the movies that are the freeze your ass off kind of genre. For some strange reason, watching these movies where people are freezing their ass off in the movie itself kind of helps get me through the freezing ass cold parts of the winter myself. You'd think you'd want to watch something with tropical and Pirates of the Caribbean and this and that, Playboy bunnies in the Bahamas or something like that. And don't get me wrong, I watched a couple of winters ago. I was doing like the Baywatch on Amazon Prime and Baywatch remastered and stuff. So don't get me wrong, I do that kind of stuff as well. But the only time of year I really like to watch the movies that take place in the winter, or the freezing your ass off kind of genre, is the winter, because who the hell wants to watch that stuff during the summer? I guess if you're too hot, you could watch that stuff. I never watch that stuff during the summer, but what I'm trying to say very long-windedly is that basically the only time of the year I watch these kind of movies is the winter, and seeing as how it's getting to be that time of year where I am in Minnesota, I thought it was time to crack open the, it was a blind buy, unfortunately, on Blu-ray. I bought Centigrade. I don't think it was very much, maybe just $12 or $13 or something like that. I got it back in the summer, intending to save it for the colder winter months. I cracked it open, watched it, and I gotta tell you, holy crap. Now, this movie, if you didn't know, is basically about a couple, Matt and Naomi, as they travel through the Arctic mountains of Norway. So basically, from what I understand, she's this novelist who's just, and her and her husband are traveling around the Arctic, whatever it said, roads of Norway on a book tour for her, miserably poorly performing book that she's just put out or something like that. And what's so pathetic about this movie is it's like she's just days away from, like, she's pregnant and she's just days away from giving birth. So why are you gonna go, I think this couple's from America, North America. Why are you gonna go to Norway when it's frickin' freezing and do a book tour when you're almost ready to give birth? That makes so much sense. Oh, I forgot to mention that this movie is supposedly based on a true story. Just another thing to make it, as you're watching it, and if you're awake still, one more thing to make it like, ooh, this is so whatever. It should be said that just because they say a movie's based on a true story doesn't mean it is. Fargo is a perfect example of that. So basically the premise of this movie is, they're driving out in the middle of nowhere in this, freezing tundra, and it's like starts freezing raining at night, and they decide to pull over. This stuff isn't shown in the movie. They decide to pull over and just sleep on the side of the road, or pull over for the night, and they wake up. This is the movie begins with them waking up in the morning. It's kind of interesting and kind of not that there's the only footage in this movie, all like 80 minutes, 85 minutes of it before the end credits start, is just in the vehicle itself. There's some shots of the Arctic tundra from, whatever, drone, helicopter shots of just the surroundings every now and then, but the whole movie takes place in the vehicle. And I was actually hoping that the movie would take place with them just doing whatever, driving, maybe, one of their last book tours or the book signings or whatever, and then they, you see them at the beginning pull over and then wake up. I guess it's kind of, quote unquote, creative, and also it's, can cut down on the budget of the movie also to have it just start, in the vehicle in the morning when they're already snowed in and frozen into the vehicle. Basically, they pulled over on the side of the road in the freezing rain, woke up to just being basically buried by snow and ice in the vehicle. They can't start the car, they can't get out of the car. I mean, could probably bust the windows to get out, or bust the window to get out, but as the guy says in the movie, well, the vehicle's all sealed up now. If we bust the window, there's no unbusting it if, all the cold air is going to come in then. So it's one of these movies, kind of like it's a different take on the movie Open Water. It's kind of like, open water. It's, instead of being open water, you're just stuck in the ocean, just floating for your life or whatever. You're just stuck in a vehicle. Open frozen tundra could be another title for this movie. So that's the premise of this movie. You spend 85 minutes watching this husband and wife, couple that's, I guess, I don't know if they're like, I don't know if they're close to divorce or if they're gonna divorce or whatever. It would, it wouldn't be surprising, seeing as how they're just about to bring a baby into the world. So of course, wouldn't be surprising if they were gonna divorce. That's how it always seems to happen these days. But yeah, I gotta tell you, I mean, I don't know. I guess I kind of hoped like I say, it was gonna start with some just normal footage, and usually also when you do a movie like this, you tend to, just so the viewer doesn't suffocate in the car with them, have like flashback footages of their life, like before this happened or whatever, and stuff like that, to get the audience out of the vehicle and stretch their legs. But it occurred to me, well, that might have been a deliberate choice of the filmmakers, is to not give the audience that that respite or respite or whatever the hell it's called, that rest from the agonizing event that the characters in the movie are going through, which is being trapped in this vehicle that's covered in snow and ice. So that's probably what it was. It was probably a conscious effort on the filmmakers to, with the exception of cutting outside to see a plow go by, or just the frozen tundra, shots of the frozen tundra. It was probably an actual stylistic, quote unquote, creative choice to basically never see anything except for just them in this vehicle, like a station wagon rental car of theirs, throughout the entire course of the movie. And obviously, you have this and that happening, this and that, just trying to survive. I gotta tell you, I really can't remember much except one thing that actually just made this movie even all the more unbearable for me, was the stupid notion. And it's like you don't even know that she's even pregnant until like 30 minutes into the movie or something like that. It's like, oh, by the way, she's pregnant, and it's like she's getting contractions and whatever. And the thing that ends up, this movie wouldn't have been so horrible except for the fact that this woman, it's not real, of course, but the character in the movie actually has her baby in the fucking car, and it's just like, God, what's going to make this movie more miserable? Like, what could make this movie more scary? Oh, childbirth could make it more scary. And it's just like, oh my God. So on top of all of this, being trapped in the vehicle for days and days and days and days, she has their baby, in the car. And then I'm like, oh great. I don't know what point, what time in the movie that happens, if it's like 50 minutes into the movie or something like that, but I'm like, oh great, so now I'm going to have to, I'm not a big fan of babies, so I'm thinking, oh great, now I have to listen to this baby crying for 20 minutes, like the last third of this movie. But you don't have to hear the baby non-stop for the last third of the movie, but you hear it every now and then. It's just so nasty, because from what I can gather watching the movie, after she has her baby or whatever, it's like they pull out obviously like the umbilical cord, and I don't know if what is it, the placenta, what the hell, whatever, it might be the placenta, like the sac that the baby's in or whatever. It's like you don't really see it necessarily, but I think it's implied that they pull all that out, and they have this in the back of the station wagon, this convenient little lid, storage area where they put whatever, things, and placentas, umbilical cords, and candles and matches, whatever you might need to get later on. And there's this nasty ass scene. I'm just gonna spoil this whole movie because no one should really see this anyway, and you probably haven't seen it, and you're probably not gonna see it. I mean, this review's not gonna make you want to see it, I don't imagine. So if you don't want to be spoiled, just stop the review right now. If you want it to be spoiled, keep watching. Basically what ends up happening is the woman freaks out at some point and breaks the front, the driver's side front window, and and so she ruins that. So all the air came in, and for some stupid reason her husband fell asleep in the driver's seat right next to that broken window. So the next morning he wakes up dead. Well, he doesn't wake up at all, but she wakes up to him being dead. So the husband slash father of the newborn baby is dead. And later on, it's like, okay, so this movie gets so nasty. It makes Saul look like Mr. Rogers. Just maybe not because of what you're seeing per se, but just like what's happening, implied in this and that. So what she ends up doing is like she, from what I understand, and this is just my interpretation of the movie, she's trying to breastfeed the baby. The baby's crying, trying to breastfeed it. And it's like maybe she doesn't have any milk, so she comes up with this. That's because she hasn't been eating herself. So then I think, now I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is what happened. So basically she opens the handy, little storage container section in the back of the station wagon, reaches in and grabs the, if it's called the placenta, if it's not, that's what I'm going to call it, and then like starts to eat some of her own fucking placenta, I guess to get some nourishment so she can have milk for the baby. What's so stupid is it makes it look like in the movie that she takes a couple bites of it and then like minutes later she's got milk. And I don't know if I'm misunderstanding this or if they're cut to like, next day or hours later. It's just, I couldn't, maybe I'm not understanding the movie correctly, but it seemed like she eats some of her own placenta and then like moments later has milk to satisfy the baby. So, obviously the last half of this movie, when the husband dies and the baby is born and she eats the placenta and breastfeeds the baby and all this stuff, the last half of the movie for me is very unpleasant. And since I'm just spoiling the movie, obviously, I'll just spoil it, that she wakes up one morning, I don't know if this is the 20th, I don't know, don't quote me, 25th, 6th, 7th, 28th day. She wakes up to, like the snow and ice melting on the vehicle, so at that point she makes a decision to, try to dig her way out of the vehicle. She does. She goes for a little bit of a walk with the baby in a bag and goes up off road on the snow drifts and ends up seeing in the distance like this hotel or something like that, all lit up and cozy, and she smiles, and it's like the end of the movie, and it's just like, oh my God. It's kind of like that was a part of the argument between the husband and wife at the beginning was, I think the wife wanted to actually just go search for help or go search for help or whatever, and the husband didn't want to because it's probably colder out, they might die from exposure out there. So you can see both points, but it's kind of like, oh man, seeing her find the hotel at the end, which wasn't, we don't know how far away it was from the vehicle. If they cut out some time that she's walking or whatever, but it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, oh, if they only would have like went for a walk sooner, they would have maybe found the hotel or whatever. But we don't know how cold it was at that part of the movie. But yeah, I was hoping Centigrade wouldn't be just actually the whole frickin' movie inside the station wagon with these two characters that bickered and bantered with each other and had babies and ate their own placenta and stuff. One thing I will say before I end the review for positives, I mean, basically, I don't like this movie very much at all, but what I will say about the movie, to the movie's credit, I guess if you're going to do a movie about being frozen in a station wagon and have the whole movie be frozen in a station wagon, it's well done. The movie's it's not like some hack job. It's well done. The two performers, the woman, the man, I think they're the only two people in the movie, which is interesting. It's kind of, like I say, the budget of this movie probably wasn't very high because I'm sure, the whole vehicle was just filmed in a studio in this vehicle because, the windows are all frosted up. You can't see out the vehicle and stuff. So probably a relatively inexpensive movie to make with no, real locations per se, except for the shots of the tundra and her escaping at the end or whatever. But what I will say is it's well done. If you like a movie about people spending the whole movie in a vehicle and bickering and arguing back and forth and having babies, the performances from the two people in the movie, the woman and the guy, are good. Well done. It's just, I guess it's, one of these instances where it's just not my cup of tea. I'm only going to be able to go as high as 1/2 of a star out of 4 stars for Centigrade. Not a movie that I plan to really watch again ever, probably. But that's probably pretty much do it for my review of Centigrade. Probably the you know, out of all of the freezing your ass off genre movies that I can think of, probably my least favorite of all of them. And you know, I gotta admit, you know, having the baby and eating the placenta didn't help my, you know, me liking this movie at all. So I guess that pretty much does it for my review. Thanks a lot for watching, and as always, we'll catch you on the next one.